The Zephyrians were not like other aliens in the galaxy. They looked strange, with their soft, jelly-like bodies that changed colors based on their mood. They were small, about the size of human children, with big round eyes that seemed to take up most of their face. But it wasn't just their looks that made them different. The Zephyrians had abilities that other aliens thought were useless. On their home planet, Saphira, the Zephyrians lived peaceful lives. They could make beautiful music by vibrating their bodies. They could also absorb and store sunlight, which made them glow in the dark. These things made them happy, but the rest of the galaxy didn't care about music or glowing. One day, a group of powerful aliens visited Saphira. They were tall, with hard shells, and many arms. These aliens, called the Gal-Fed, ruled most of the galaxy. They looked at the Zephyrians and laughed. "What good are you?" the Gal-Fed leader asked. "You can't fight. You can't build spaceships. You're weak and useless." The Zephyrians tried to show how they could help. They played their body music and lit up the night with their glow. But the Gal-Fed just shook their heads. "The galaxy has no place for weaklings," they said. "You have 1 month to leave your planet. If you don't, we'll destroy it." The Zephyrians were shocked. Their leader, Xalan, begged the Gal-Fed to change their minds. But it was no use. The powerful aliens left, leaving the Zephyrians scared and sad. Xalan called a big meeting. All the Zephyrians gathered in the great glowing field, their bodies flashing worried colors of blue and green. "My friends," Xalan said, his voice shaking, "we must find a new home. But where can we go?" The Zephyrians had never built spaceships before. They had never needed to leave their planet. But now, they had no choice. They worked day and night, using their ability to absorb and channel energy to power their new ships. As the deadline got closer, the Zephyrians became more scared. Some wanted to stay and fight, even though they knew they would lose. Others wanted to hide deep underground. But most agreed they had to leave. Xalan spent many nights looking at star maps. Where could they go? Every planet seemed to be part of the Gal-Fed. Then he saw it. A small blue planet at the edge of the galaxy. It wasn't part of the Gal-Fed. The aliens there were called humans. Maybe, Xalan thought, maybe these humans will help us. On the last day of the month, the Zephyrians left their home. Thousands of small, glowing ships filled the sky. As they flew away, many Zephyrians cried, their bodies turning a deep, sad purple. The journey was long and hard. The Zephyrians had never been in space before. Some got sick. Others were so sad they stopped glowing. But Xalan kept them going. "We will find a new home," he told them. "We are not weak. We are different, and that's okay." As they got closer to Earth, Xalan felt both excited and scared. Would the humans welcome them? Or would they be like the Gal-Fed? "We come in peace," Xalan practiced saying in the human language called English. "We need help." Finally, after what felt like forever, they saw it. Earth. It was beautiful, blue and green and white. The Zephyrians glowed brighter than ever before. "This is it," Xalan said. "Our last hope." As they entered Earth's orbit, Xalan sent out a message to the planet below. "People of Earth," he said, his voice shaking but hopeful, "we are the Zephyrians. We come seeking refuge. Please, will you help us?" Then they waited. The future of their entire species depended on the answer from this strange, new world. Xalan looked at his people, their bodies pulsing with nervous light. He hoped, with all his heart, that the humans would be different from the rest of the galaxy, that they would see value in the Zephyrians, even if they were different. As they orbited the blue planet, all they could do was wait, hope, and glow. Dr. Sarah Chin was working late at the SETI Institute when her computer started beeping wildly. She rubbed her tired eyes, thinking it was just another false alarm. But as she looked at the screen, her heart started racing. "This can't be," she whispered. The signal was like nothing she had ever seen before. It was clear, structured, and definitely not natural. Sarah's hand shook as she picked up the phone to call her boss. Within hours, observatories around the world confirmed it. An alien spacecraft had entered Earth's orbit. The news spread like wildfire. People everywhere were glued to their TVs and phones, waiting for updates. In Washington, D.C., President Rodriguez called an emergency meeting. World leaders joined through video calls, their faces a mix of excitement and fear. "What do we know about them?" the president asked. "Not much," replied General Wang. "Their ship is unlike anything we've seen. It's not very big, and it doesn't seem to have any weapons." As they talked, a new message came in. The aliens wanted to land and meet. They said they came in peace and needed help. "It could be a trick," said some leaders. "But what if they really need our help?" asked others. After hours of debate, they decided to allow the aliens to land in a remote area. They would meet them with a mix of scientists, diplomats, and a small military force, just in case. The chosen spot was a flat desert in Australia. As the sun rose, a crowd of officials and media waited nervously. In the sky, a small glowing ship appeared. It looked more like a giant soap bubble than a spaceship. The ship landed softly on the sand. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a door opened, and out came the aliens. People gasped. The Zephyrians were not what anyone expected. They were small, colorful, and looked almost cute. Their bodies changed colors as they moved, creating a beautiful light show. Zelen, the Zephyrian leader, stepped forward. He had practiced this moment for months. "People of Earth," he said in shaky but clear English, "we come in peace. We are the Zephyrians, and we need your help." Dr. Chen, who was part of the welcoming committee, couldn't believe her ears. "They learned our language," she thought, amazed. Zelen told their story, how they were kicked out of their home, how the galaxy thought they were useless, and how Earth was their last hope. As he spoke, the Zephyrians' bodies pulsed with sad blues and purples. Some humans felt tears in their eyes. It was hard not to feel sorry for these gentle creatures. But not everyone was convinced. General Wang whispered to the president, "We can't just trust them. What if it's a trick?" The president nodded but said, "Let's hear them out." Zelen continued, "We don't ask for much. Just a place to live, away from those who want to harm us. In return, we offer our knowledge and friendship." To show their goodwill, the Zephyrians demonstrated some of their abilities. They played beautiful music with their bodies and showed how they could store and release energy. Dr. Chen was fascinated. "Think of what we could learn from them," she said excitedly. As the day went on, humans and Zephyrians talked more. The aliens answered questions and tried to ease fears. They even let some humans tour their ship. By evening, the news had spread worldwide. People everywhere were talking about the Zephyrians. Some were excited, some were scared, and many weren't sure what to think. In homes, schools, and offices, people debated. Should Earth help these aliens? What would it mean for humanity? As night fell in the desert, the president made a short announcement. "We have much to discuss," she said. "For now, we have offered our alien visitors temporary shelter, while the world's nations decide on the next steps." Zelen and his people were relieved. It wasn't a permanent solution, but it was a start. As they settled into their temporary homes, they glowed with hopeful shades of pink and yellow. The Zephyrians had made it to Earth, but their journey was far from over. The real challenge was just beginning, convincing humanity to accept them. The world was buzzing with excitement and worry. It had been a week since the Zephyrians landed, and everyone had an opinion about the aliens. In every country, people were talking about what to do. At the United Nations in New York, a special meeting was called. Leaders from all over the world came to decide the fate of the Zephyrians. The big room was packed, and the air was tense. UN Secretary General Amina Okafor stood up to speak. "We face a decision unlike any in human history," she said. "Do we offer these aliens a home, or do we turn them away?" The room erupted in voices. Some leaders stood up, waving their hands, eager to speak. The president of France was first. "These aliens seem peaceful," he said. "We could learn so much from them. We should welcome them." But the Prime Minister of India wasn't so sure. "What if more come?" she asked. "We already struggle to feed all humans. How can we support aliens too?" Back and forth, the arguments went. Some countries were excited about the alien technology. Others worried about diseases the Zephyrians might bring. A few even thought it might be a trick to invade Earth. Outside the UN, people gathered to protest. Some held signs saying, "Aliens welcome." Others shouted, "Earth for humans." Police worked hard to keep the two groups apart. On TV and the internet, experts debated day and night. Scientists talked about the amazing things they could learn. Doctors worried about alien germs. Religious leaders wondered what aliens meant for their beliefs. In schools, children asked their teachers hard questions. Why can't the aliens go home? Are they going to live in our town? Teachers did their best to explain, but even they weren't sure what would happen. As the debates went on, Xalan and the other Zephyrians waited nervously. They were staying in a special camp in the Australian desert. Every day, human scientists came to talk to them and learn about their technology. Dr. Sarah Chen spent a lot of time with the aliens. She was amazed by their abilities. "They can store solar energy better than any battery we've ever made," she told reporters. "This could solve our energy problems." But not everyone was so positive. Some people started spreading rumors online. They said the aliens were planning to take over, or that they would eat all our food. Even though these weren't true, many people believed them. As the UN meeting entered its second week, things were getting tense. Countries couldn't agree. Some wanted to welcome the Zephyrians. Others wanted to send them away. A few even suggested splitting the aliens up among different countries. Xalan was worried. He told Dr. Chen, "We don't want to cause trouble. We just need a home." Just when it seemed like no one would agree, a surprise came. The president of a small island nation called Tuvalu stood up to speak. "Our island is small," he said, "and it's getting smaller because of rising seas. But we have room in our hearts. We will take in the Zephyrians if they promise to help us with their technology." The room went quiet. Then, slowly, people started to clap. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a start. The UN voted. Most countries agreed to let Tuvalu take in the Zephyrians. They also agreed to help Tuvalu with money and resources. When Xalan heard the news, his body glowed bright yellow with joy. "Thank you," he said, his voice shaking. "We will be good neighbors. We promise." As the Zephyrians prepared to move to their new island home, the world watched and waited. Would this be the start of a beautiful friendship between humans and aliens, or would there be more challenges ahead? Only time would tell. But for now, both humans and Zephyrians had hope for a bright future together. The small island nation of Tuvalu was buzzing with activity. It had been 3 months since the Zephyrians arrived, and life on the island had changed in ways no one could have imagined. At first, the local Tuvaluans were nervous about their new alien neighbors. But as days passed, curiosity replaced fear. The Zephyrians, with their color-changing bodies and gentle nature, soon became a common sight on the island's beaches and streets. Meal, a young Tuvaluan girl, was one of the first to make friends with the aliens. She often visited the Zephyrian settlement, fascinated by their glowing bodies and strange music. "Can you teach me how to change colors?" Meal asked Xalan one sunny afternoon. Xalan's body rippled with amused pink tones. "I'm sorry, little one. It's not something we can teach, but perhaps you can teach us some of your songs." This exchange became common. Humans taught Zephyrians about Earth customs, while the aliens shared their unique abilities and knowledge. Dr. Sarah Chen, who had moved to Tuvalu to continue her research, was amazed by the Zephyrians' scientific knowledge. "Their understanding of energy is far beyond ours," she told her colleagues over a video call. "They've already helped us improve our solar panels by 300%. The Zephyrians' ability to store and release energy proved invaluable. Tuvalu, once threatened by rising sea levels, now had powerful, clean energy sources. They started building new defenses against the ocean, powered by Zephyrian technology. But it wasn't just science that the aliens brought. They introduced new forms of art to the island. Zephyrian color concerts, where they would pulse and glow in harmony, became a popular evening entertainment. Humans tried to join in with colorful lights, creating a beautiful mix of alien and Earth cultures. Food was another area of exciting exchange. The Zephyrians were plant-based beings, absorbing nutrients through their skin. They were fascinated by human cooking. Local chef Tassi held weekly fusion food events where he'd create dishes inspired by Zephyrian energy patterns. "It's like painting with flavors," Tassi explained as he sprinkled glowing Zephyrian spores over a traditional Tuvaluan dish. "We're creating a whole new cuisine." However, not everything was smooth sailing. Some islanders complained about the changes. "Our way of life is disappearing," grumbled old Mr. Fetu. "Soon, we'll be more alien than human." These grumblings caught the attention of off-island groups. Anti-alien protesters started appearing on Tuvalu's shores, waving signs and shouting slogans. "Earth for humans," they yelled. "Send the aliens home." The Tuvaluan government, led by Prime Minister Latu, tried to keep the peace. "The Zephyrians have brought us gifts of knowledge and technology," he said in a public address. "They are our friends and neighbors now." Despite the protests, most Tuvaluans had grown fond of the Zephyrians. When a group of aliens fell sick from a human virus, the whole island came together to help. Doctors worked day and night to find a cure, while locals brought glowing flowers, the closest thing to Zephyrian food, to the alien hospital. As months passed, the bond between humans and Zephyrians grew stronger. Children in schools learned both Tuvaluan and Zephyrian languages. Mixed sports teams were formed, with games adapted to suit both species' abilities. One evening, as the sun set over the Pacific, Meal sat with her Zephyrian friend, Zix, on the beach. They watched as human surfers rode waves alongside Zephyrians, who glided on the water's surface using their energy manipulation skills. "Do you miss your old home?" Meal asked. Zix's body shimmered with a soft blue. "Sometimes," the alien admitted, "but Tuvalu has become our new home. We're grateful to be here." As stars appeared in the sky, both human and alien gazed upward. The galaxy that had rejected the Zephyrians seemed far away now. Here on this small island, two species from different worlds had found a way to live together, learn from each other, and create something new and beautiful. The cultural exchange on Tuvalu was more than just a local event. It was a glimpse into a possible future. A future where differences were celebrated and the boundaries between worlds faded away. It was a quiet morning on Tuvalu. The sun was rising, painting the sky in beautiful shades of orange and pink. Humans and Zephyrians were starting their day, just like any other. Suddenly, the peace was shattered. Every screen on the island, TVs, phones, computers, flickered to life. A strange face appeared. It wasn't human, and it wasn't Zephyrian. This alien was tall, with hard, shiny skin and multiple eyes. "People of Earth," the alien said in a deep, rumbling voice, "we are the Galfed. You are harboring galactic pests known as Zephyrians. Hand them over immediately, or face destruction." Panic spread across Tuvalu and the rest of the world. In New York, the United Nations called an emergency meeting. In Tuvalu, Prime Minister Latu rushed to the Zephyrian settlement. Zelen, the Zephyrian leader, was already gathering his people. His body was flashing worried shades of green and blue. "We're so sorry," he told Prime Minister Latu. "We never meant to bring danger to your world." But Latu shook his head. "You're part of our world now. We won't abandon you." As world leaders debated what to do, more Gal-fed ships appeared in the sky. They were huge, like floating cities, making the Zephyrian ships look tiny in comparison. Dr. Sarah Chen was busy analyzing the GAL-fed transmission. Their technology is far beyond ours, she reported to a room full of scientists and military leaders. If they decide to attack, we don't stand a chance. Around the world, people were scared. Some wanted to give up the Zephyrians to save Earth. Others argued that it wasn't right to abandon their alien friends. In Tuvalu, young Meal hugged her Zephyrian friend Zix. "We won't let them take you," she promised, even though she was shaking with fear. The GAL-fed gave Earth 24 hours to decide. As the deadline approached, tensions rose. Military forces around the world were put on high alert. People stocked up on food and water, fearing the worst. In a bold move, the President of the United States decided to try talking to the GAL-fed. A message was sent to the alien ships requesting a meeting. To everyone's surprise, the GAL-fed agreed. They sent a single representative to Earth. The meeting was set to take place on a small island near Tuvalu. As the world watched, leaders from Earth's biggest countries gathered. Zalin was there too, his body pulsing with nervous energy. The GAL-fed representative was even more intimidating in person. It towered over the humans and Zephyrians, its multiple eyes scanning everything. "Why do you protect these useless creatures?" the GAL-fed asked, pointing at the Zephyrians. The President of the United States stepped forward. "They're not useless," she said firmly. "They brought us knowledge and friendship. They're part of our world now." The GAL-fed seemed surprised. "But they can't fight. They can't build warships. What use are they?" This time, it was Meal who spoke up. Despite being small and scared, she stood tall. "They teach us to see beauty in everything. They make music with their bodies and help us save our planet. Not everything is about fighting." The GAL-fed was quiet for a long moment. Its eyes blinked in a strange pattern. "You value these things?" it asked, sounding confused. "We do," said Prime Minister Latu, "and we'll fight to protect the Zephyrians if we have to." The tension in the air was thick. Everyone held their breath, waiting for the GAL-fed's response. Would Earth have to fight an impossible war? Or was there hope for peace? The GAL-fed representative turned its many eyes to the sky, as if thinking. Then it spoke. "We must discuss this with our leaders. You have shown us something unexpected. We will return with our decision." As the GAL-fed representative left, people weren't sure whether to feel relieved or more worried. The threat wasn't over, but they had bought some time. Zellen's body glowed with a mix of hope and fear. "Whatever happens," he said, "we're grateful for your friendship." As the sun set on this tense day, humans and Zephyrians stood side by side, watching the sky. The future was uncertain, but they would face it together. The world held its breath as they waited for the GAL-fed to return. Days passed, filled with tense planning and worried whispers. In secret bases around the globe, humans and Zephyrians worked together, preparing for the worst. Dr. Sarah Chen led a team of scientists, both human and alien, in a hidden lab beneath Tuvalu. "We need to find a way to use the Zephyrians' abilities as a defense," she said, her eyes tired but determined. Zalin nodded, his body glowing a soft, thoughtful blue. "Our energy manipulation might be key, but how can it stop their massive ships?" As they worked, Meal and her friend Zix snuck into the lab. "We want to help too," Meal declared boldly. At first, the adults wanted to send them away. But then Zix started to pulse with excited colors. "What if we use our glow as a distraction?" the young Zephyrian suggested. This spark of an idea led to a breakthrough. The teen realized they could use the Zephyrians' ability to absorb and release energy in a way the GAL-fed wouldn't expect. Meanwhile, in military bases, human soldiers trained alongside Zephyrians. It was a strange sight. Tough warriors learning to work with the gentle, color-changing aliens. But slowly they began to form an unlikely but strong team. Just as hope was growing, the sky darkened. The GAL-fed had returned, their massive ships blocking out the sun. Their message was clear: "We have decided. The Zephyrians must go. You have 1 hour to surrender them, or we attack." World leaders quickly gathered via video call. Some wanted to fight, others to give in. In the end, they decided to stand with their Zephyrian friends. The President of the United States addressed the world. "Today, we face a threat not just to our Zephyrian allies, but to the very idea of peace and understanding between different peoples. We choose to stand and fight." As the deadline approached, the unlikely alliance put their plan into action. Zephyrians spread out across strategic locations, ready to use their energy abilities. Human military forces stood by, weapons ready but hoping they wouldn't be needed. When the Galfed attack began, it was terrifying. Huge beams of energy shot from their ships, aiming at major cities. But then something unexpected happened. The Zephyrians began to glow, brighter than ever before. They absorbed the energy from the Galfed weapons, their bodies pulsing with incredible power. The attacks fizzled out, leaving the Galfed confused. Meal and Zix, despite being told to stay safe, snuck out to help. They joined a group of Zephyrians near a beach, adding their small but brave efforts to the defense. The Galfed, frustrated, sent down ground troops. This was where the human Zephyrian teams shone. Human soldiers provided cover, while Zephyrians used their stored energy to create dazzling light shows, disorienting the enemy. Dr. Chen's voice crackled over the radio. "It's working. Keep it up." The battle raged on for hours. The Galfed, for all their advanced technology, found themselves outmaneuvered by the creative tactics of the Earth-Zephyrian alliance. In a desperate move, the Galfed launched a massive energy weapon, hoping to overwhelm the defenses. But they had underestimated the Zephyrians' ability to absorb energy. Every Zephyrian on Earth glowed like a star, channeling the excess energy harmlessly into the ground. The sight was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the Galfed weapons fell silent. Their ships hung motionless in the sky. A message came through. "We do not understand. How did you defeat us?" The president, standing with Zalin, responded, "We didn't defeat you. We defended ourselves together. Perhaps now you see the value in our differences." As the sun began to rise on a new day, the Galfed ships slowly retreated. The impossible had happened. Earth and its Zephyrian allies had stood against the galactic superpower and survived. Cheers erupted around the world. Humans and Zephyrians hugged, their bodies glowing with joy and relief. Meal and Zix danced on the beach, laughing and crying at the same time. Zalin, his body shimmering with grateful colors, turned to the human leaders. "Thank you," he said simply, his voice full of emotion. "You gave us a home, and then you fought to protect us. We will never forget this." As the celebration began, everyone knew that nothing would ever be the same. Earth had taken its first steps onto the galactic stage, hand in hand with its unlikely alien friends. 5 years had passed since the great battle with the Galfed. Earth and its Zephyrian allies had not just survived. They had thrived. The world had changed in ways no one could have imagined. On a bright morning in New Tuvalu, a shining city that now stood where the old island nation once was, Meal walked to school. At 18, she was tall now, but her Zephyrian friend Zix still floated beside her at child height. "Ready for the big day?" Zix asked, glowing with excited yellow pulses. Meal nodded, grinning. "I can't believe we're going to be the first Earth Zephyrian team to visit the Galactic Council." The two friends entered their school, a beautiful building that seemed to float on air, a mix of human architecture and Zephyrian technology. Inside, their classmates were a colorful mix of humans and young Zephyrians. Their teacher, Dr. Chen, now older but still full of energy, stood at the front of the class. "Today," she said, "we make history. Our planet takes its place among the stars." Across the globe, similar scenes played out. In New York, the United Nations building now had a new wing, the Department of Galactic Affairs. Zalin, looking older but still glowing with gentle colors, addressed a crowd of diplomats from Earth and beyond. "Once we were outcasts," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "Now we stand as equals, thanks to the kindness and bravery of humanity." The president of the Earth Alliance, a new global government formed after the Gal-Fed incident, nodded in agreement. "Together, we have achieved wonders," she said. And it was true. The blend of human creativity and Zephyrian technology had led to incredible advancements. Cities now floated on clean energy. Diseases that once seemed incurable were easily treated. The oceans, once threatened by pollution and rising temperatures, were clean and thriving. But the changes weren't just on Earth. The story of how a weak species and a young civilization had stood up to the Gal-Fed had spread across the galaxy. Other alien races, once afraid to stand up to the galactic bullies, found courage. The Gal-Fed, humbled by their defeat, had changed too. They sent ambassadors to Earth, eager to learn about this strange planet where strength wasn't measured by weapons alone. As Meal and Zix prepared to board the ship that would take them to the Galactic Council, they felt nervous but excited. They were part of the first generation to grow up in this new, united world. "Do you think they'll like us?" Meal asked, looking at the stars. Zix glowed a confident pink. "They'll love us. We bring something new, the best of both our worlds." The ship, a beautiful blend of human and Zephyrian design, rose smoothly into the air. As Earth grew smaller below them, Meal thought about how far they had come. She remembered the scared little girl she had been, meeting her first alien friend. She thought of the terrifying days of the Gal-Fed attack and the joy of victory. Now she was heading to meet beings from across the galaxy as an equal. On the ship's viewing deck, humans and Zephyrians gathered, watching their blue-green world fade into the distance. Old Mr. Fetu, who had once grumbled about changes, now stood proudly with his Zephyrian neighbors. "Who would have thought," he chuckled, "that those jelly aliens would help us touch the stars?" As the ship entered hyperspace, a cheer went up. They were on their way to take their place in the galactic community. Back on Earth, in every home and school, people watched the historic journey on their screens. Children of both species dreamed of their own future adventures in space. In the old Zephyrian settlement, now a museum, a plaque stood. Here began the friendship that changed two worlds and a galaxy. The story of the Zephyrians and humanity had become legend, a tale of compassion, bravery, and the power of unlikely friendships. As their ship sped towards the Galactic Council, Meal and Zix knew they were living the next chapter of that legend. A new era had truly begun, not just for Earth or the Zephyrians, but for the entire galaxy. And it all started with a simple act of kindness, welcoming those in need of a home.